imperfetto, traspasato, and sufissi by Alex Salvato. Sufissi, or suffixes. Here is an example of suffixes you would see in Italian. You can see omone, affoni, vocione, piccolina, ragazzaccio, and as you can see, it is a common Italian noun or adjective with a separate ending. Here's a translation of that. We have big mustache, big fat man, tiny little woman, soft voice. You can see how these suffixes add a meaning to the word that they are changing. Suffixes are attached to the end of words, and in Italian they can be added to nouns or adjectives, and these express different things. If you add a suffix like eta to casa, it means little house, or accio to tempo, it would mean bad weather instead of just weather. And when you add a suffix, you can see how the final vowel of the word drops. Different suffixes mean different meanings. Ino, a, I, e, eto, a, I, e, ello, a, I, e, uccio, uccia, uci, uce. All of these mean small or endearing. And as you can see with the /a/i/e, they agree in gender and number as the noun or adjective that they are changing. You can see this in case, feminine plural, into casette, little houses. Largeness is expressed from the endings one, a, I, e. Librone, letterona, big book, long letter, etc. Sufissi. The endings accio, accia, acci, acce, these all mean bad or ugly. As in libro, libraccio, the bad book, or ragazzo to ragazzaccio, the bad boy, or brat, as in the beginning example that we had. And when you use these suffixes in Italian, you may not be able to translate them immediately, but that is just because you need to memorize the words that are being described and then the context of those words. So you would never say something like, going back here, the big letter. If a letter is big, it's a long letter. Imperfetto. Here's an example. You can see it in piaceva, eravate, leggevo, etc. This translates to things like did you like, used to read, I watched. Here is how you conjugate it. So imperfetto is a past tense describing habitual actions, states of being, or there's some more stuff I'll get into later. Parlare, an ARE verb, would go into parlavo, parlavi, parlava, parlavamo, parlavate, and parlavano. An ERE would go into the same thing, but it would be evo, evi, eva, etc., etc. And the same thing with the IRE, evo, evi, eva. And there was also irregular conjugations, like in essere, which would be ero, eri, era, eravamo, eravate, erono. There's also bere, coming from bevere, an ERE verb. This would be bevevo, bevevi, beveve, bevevamo, bevevate, and bevevano. Same thing with dire and fare. Dicevo, dicevi, facevi. Translations. So in the verb publicare, meaning publish, to publish, using the imperfetto, let's use the avanno conjugation of it, meaning they. This could mean they used to publish, they were publishing, or just they published. It just really depends on the context of the use. You use it even if it's a habitual action in the past or something that people used to do or things used to happen. Past actions that were in progress as something else happened may also use imperfetto. Physical, mental, or emotional state uses it. Information like age, time, or weather uses it. And then there's certain terms like anni fa or il lunedì, il martedì, etc. Some examples. So as you can see in the first one, pubblicavano solo libri per bambini. They used to publish only books for children. You use imperfetto as it is a habitual action that happened in the past. They used to publish. So they publish it for a long amount of time. It's habitual. You can see in guardavo, I used to watch TV series every day. Guardavo fiction tutti I giorni. It's a habitual action every day. Trasmettevano la partita quando è andata via la luce. They were broadcasting the game when the lights went out. Ignore è andata, we'll get to that later, but they were broadcasting the game. It's a habitual, constant action that happened in the past. Some more examples. If you look at, where is it? Quando avevo 6 or 7 anni guardavo la TV vicino allo schermo. When I was 6 or 7, I watched TV close to the screen. You can see how the imperfetto is avevo and guardavo. When I was 6 or 7. This is because of how imperfetto is used when describing background information, like age. And it's used for guardare as I watched TV. It's a habitual action. There's no point in time that you watch the TV, ergo imperfetto. If you also look at non capisco perché ero sempre stanco at the bottom, I don't understand why I was always tired. Ero sempre stanco, ero essere. It is the io form of essere. It would be used as it is a state of being tired. Imperfetto versus passato prossimo. Imperfetto, as you can see, is bolded, pioveva, guardavo. Passato prossimo is underlined, siamo rimasti, è andata, ho visto, etc. Here's a translation of that. Okay, so the passato prossimo and imperfetto are often used together in accounts of past events, but they are not interchangeable. They mean different things in the past. Here are the differences. Imperfetto, like I've been saying, describes habitual actions, or what used to happen. It can describe 2 ongoing actions that happened in the past. As something happened, something else went on, 2 different imperfetto verbs. And it can also relate to conditions, states, or things like appearance, age, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, time, weather. It goes on. But passato prossimo describes a specific event in the past, or what happened. So this would be like, yesterday I ate. That would be passato prossimo rather than imperfetto, because it happened yesterday, not I ate. And they both often mean state of being, but passato prossimo is a state of being when there's a sudden change in it. Imperfetto is when there is never not a sudden change. Here are some examples. Francesco ha mangiato un panino e una mela. Ha bevuto un caffè. Francesco ate a sandwich and an apple. He drank a coffee. So, ha mangiato, he ate a sandwich. He is not eating a sandwich. It's not a habitual action. It's one specific event that happened in the past. He drank a coffee, ha bevuto, same thing. Non-habitual, and it's not a thing like time, weather, feeling. It's none of that. If you look at the third example, e poi è tornato al lavoro, you can see how è tornato, he returned, and lavoro, lavoro, he worked. Lavoro, obviously, that's in present tense, but è tornato, that is passato prossimo, as he returned. It's a sudden action. He returned. It's a state of being that happened suddenly. Here are some trigger words that go with each one. So imperfect, things like mentre, durante, sempre, tutti, ogni. These all are words that trigger, usually what you would see with imperfetto. Words like qualche volte, all'improvviso, subito, or ieri sera, yesterday morning. These are words that would trigger passato prossimo. Trapassato. These are underlined. Aveva capito, era molto arrabbiata, and era già uscita. So here's a translation of that. Had understood, was angry, had gone. So trapassato is an equivalent of past perfect in English, or pluperfect. It expresses an action past action that happened before another past action. So if you think about it, it's the past action of the past action. Tre, passato. It's in the past almost a third time. I had worked. They had left. If you use a had plus past participle, you would typically use tra passato. And the more recent past event is expressed in either passato prossimo or imperfetto. It is formed with two parts, the imperfetto of the auxiliary verb, that being avere, essere, and if you remember, avere would be conjugated as avevo, avevi, aveva, avevamo, avevate, and avevano. Essere would be ero, eri, era, and then so on from there. So this is how different words would be conjugated with it. So lavorare, which would take avere, would be conjugated as avevo lavorato, avevi lavorato, aveva lavorato, and so on and so on. The avere would be conjugated in the imperfetto, and then as with the passato prossimo, when you conjugate with avere, the past participle of the main verb does not change with the subject. But with essere, ero can be paired with partito or partita, and something like eravamo would be partiti, partite. This is because essere agrees with the subject in both gender and in number. Both of these are similar to the passato prossimo. Some examples. When I was young, I used to eat apples. When I was young, I used to eat apples. I don't know. I'm going to skip that one. Mentre mangiavo una mela, tu eri già partito. So in the second example, you can see eri già partito. Never mind the gia, that just means already. But if you have eri partito, had left, that is trapassato. And here is a timeline of the tenses. So as you can see, the current present would be conjugated with the word lavorare as lavoro, lavori, lavora. It would be present tense. Passato prossimo would be once in the past, a single sudden moment. And this would be, o, I, a, abbiamo, avete, hanno. And then this would be conjugated with whatever word without changing the past participle. If it was avere, if it was essere, it would be something like andato, andata, andati, andate, etc. Imperfetto would be conjugated as lavo, lavi, lava, lavamo, lavate, and lavano. And then trapassato, that combines both the imperfect auxiliary verb, avevo, or ero, or just some conjugation of either avere or essere, depending on the starting verb. And then you would also include the passato, the past participle of that starting word. In this case, lavorato. Lavorate was a mistype. Thank you.